You want to know about getting caught? About watching your perfect little setup crumble like a house of cards in a hurricane? Let me tell you about the weekend that destroyed everything I'd been building for 8 months. The weekend I thought I was finally going to have Ashley Thompson all to myself, only to come home and find both our spouses sitting in my living room like some twisted intervention committee. I'm Logan Martinez, 36 years old, and I run the most successful CrossFit gym in Stone Oak, San Antonio. Been coaching for 12 years, built my reputation on getting results and keeping clients coming back. My wife Sophie works at the elementary school down the street, pulls in maybe 35 grand a year, pushing papers in the administrative office. Me? I clear 52 as a coach, plus another 20 under the table doing private sessions. Not bad money, but not enough to keep me satisfied. See, that's the thing about being a coach. You're surrounded by motivated, attractive people all day. People who respect your expertise, hang on your every word, trust you to push them harder than they'd push themselves. And when you're good at what you do, really good, that respect turns into something else pretty quick. The gym becomes your kingdom, and you're the guy everyone looks up to. Soccer moms who've never felt strong in their lives suddenly discovering they can deadlift their body weight. Businessmen who spend all day getting pushed around by their bosses finally finding a place where they can push back. Young women who've been told they're not athletic their whole lives suddenly feeling powerful and confident. That kind of influence, that kind of trust, it's intoxicating. You start to understand why rock stars and politicians get addicted to the attention. When someone believes you can transform their life, when they hang on your every word like it's gospel, it's easy to start believing your own hype. Ashley Thompson walked into my gym 8 months ago, looking like she needed saving. Real estate agent, just moved to San Antonio, with her electrician husband Bryce trying to establish herself in a new market. She was stressed, out of shape, and desperate for something to help her feel in control again. Perfect candidate for what I do best, total transformation, inside and out. I spotted her potential immediately, not just physically, though she had good bones under the suburban mom softness, but mentally, emotionally. She had that hungry look of someone who'd been settling for less than she deserved. Someone ready to make changes, ready to take risks, ready to follow the right leader down whatever path he suggested. Started with the standard new member consultation. Asked about her goals, her lifestyle, her support system at home. She mentioned her husband worked long hours, union electrician making good money, but always on job sites. Said she felt lonely in a new city, needed something that was just hers. I told her I could give her exactly what she was looking for. The first few weeks were strictly professional, taught her proper form, pushed her through workouts that left her shaking and grateful. But I noticed things. How she'd linger after sessions, asking questions that had nothing to do with fitness. How she'd mention problems at home, stress with work, feeling disconnected from her husband. How she'd light up when I gave her personal attention. Most trainers would keep things professional, maintain boundaries. But most trainers don't understand the psychology of transformation like I do. Real change doesn't happen in the gym, it happens in the mind. And minds are changed through connection, through trust, through making someone feel seen in ways they have never been seen before. By month 2, I was offering to review her nutrition plan over coffee after her Saturday morning session. Nothing inappropriate, just extending the coaching relationship. Except coffee. Turned into 2-hour conversations about her dreams, her frustrations, her marriage that felt more like a business partnership than a romance. That's when I started working my magic. See, what most people don't understand is that affairs aren't about sex. That's just the payoff. They're about creating a world where you're the solution to all their problems, where you're the person who really sees them, really understands them, really makes them feel alive. I started with small things, remembering details about her work stress, texting her motivational quotes on tough days, celebrating her progress in ways her husband never did. Made her feel special, chosen, like she was my most important client, which, in a way, she was, just not for the reasons she thought. The key is to become indispensable gradually. Don't rush it. Don't push too hard. Just consistently be the person who makes her feel better about herself, better about her life, better about her choices. Become the highlight of her week, then the highlight of her day, then the person she thinks about when she's lying next to her husband at night. Ashley was textbook perfect for this approach. ambitious but insecure, attractive but not quite confident about it yet, intelligent but not quite wise to what I was doing. She wanted to believe she was special, that she deserved more than what she had, that someone finally understood her potential. I gave her all of that. Not through lies, exactly. I genuinely did think she was attractive, did think she had unrealized potential, did think her husband was taking her for granted. The manipulation wasn't in creating false feelings. It was in positioning myself as the only person who could help her access what she really wanted. Every conversation was carefully calculated to build dependency. Every compliment was designed to contrast with what she wasn't getting at home. Every shared moment was crafted to feel unique, special, like something that could only happen between us. The breakthrough came in month 3. She'd had a particularly bad day, lost a big sale, got in a fight with Bryce about money, felt like everything was falling apart. I offered to do a private session at her house, said the gym was too public for the kind of work she needed to do, told her we'd focus on stress relief and confidence building. She gave me her address without hesitation. Nice place in a newer subdivision, exactly what you'd expect from a dual-income couple with no kids. Bryce was at work, wouldn't be home until after 6. Perfect timing. That first house visit wasn't physical, not yet. I spent 2 hours listening to her pour out her frustrations, validating her feelings, making her feel heard in ways her husband apparently never did. Positioned myself as her ally, her advocate, the one person who really understood what she was going through. The house itself told me everything I needed to know about their marriage. Everything was functional but sterile. Expensive furniture that looked like it came straight from a showroom floor. No personal touches, no evidence of real intimacy or shared interests. The kind of place two people live when they're building a life together, but not really building a connection. I made sure to notice details she probably thought no one else would see. The real estate awards on her office wall, the expensive exercise equipment in the garage that clearly never got used, the wedding photos where they looked happy but distant. Every observation became a way to show her that I really saw her, really understood what was missing in her life. By the time I left, she was looking at me like I'd saved her life, and in her mind, I probably had. From there, it was just a matter of escalating gradually, more house visits, always with plausible fitness-related excuses, nutrition consultations, goal-setting sessions, specialized training that couldn't be done at the gym. Each time pushing boundaries a little further, creating more intimacy, more dependency. The second house visit, I suggested we work on flexibility and stress relief techniques. Brought massage oils, explained how muscle tension was connected to emotional stress. Spent an hour working on her shoulders and neck while she talked about feeling trapped in a life that didn't quite fit anymore. Nothing inappropriate happened, but the intimacy was unmistakable. Physical contact that lasted longer than necessary. Conversations that went deeper than professional. A growing sense that we were crossing lines, even if we couldn't quite define what those lines were. Third visit, I brought workout clothes and suggested we do a session in her backyard. Said being in nature would help her connect with her body in new ways. Spent 2 hours watching her move, correcting her form with gentle touches, creating moments where our bodies were close enough to feel each other's heat. By visit 4, she was changing. Clothes in front of me. Nothing deliberate, just the casual intimacy of someone who'd started to think of me as something more than her trainer. I acted like it was perfectly normal, didn't make a big deal of it, just continued our conversation while she stripped down to sports bra and leggings 3 feet away from me. The psychological game was working perfectly. I was becoming part of her routine, part of her safe space, part of the world she'd created that had nothing to do with her husband or her marriage. I was the person she called when she had good news, the person she texted when she was feeling low, the person who made her feel like the best version of herself. The physical aspect started in month 4, nothing dramatic, just a hug that lasted too long after a particularly emotional session. Then holding her hand while she talked about her problems. Then kissing her forehead when she cried about feeling trapped in her marriage. I let her make the first real move of course. Smart operators always do. Let her be the one to cross the line, so she's invested in the decision. When she finally kissed me after a session, I acted surprised, conflicted, like it was the last thing I'd expected. Told her we couldn't, that it was wrong, that I respected her marriage too much, but I didn't pull away. That's the key. Give them the resistance they need to feel like they're choosing you over their obligations. Make them work for it. Make them feel like they're seducing you instead of the other way around. By the time we first slept together, she was convinced it was her idea. The logistics were surprisingly easy. Her husband worked predictable hours, my schedule was flexible, and she had the perfect cover story with real estate showings. We'd meet at vacant properties she was supposed to be preparing for open houses, private, temporary, no paper trail. I'd researched the real estate market enough to know which properties stayed on the market, longest, which neighborhoods had the most vacant houses, which times of day were safest for discreet meetings, made myself an expert in her business so I could help her maintain the perfect cover story. The first few months of physical affair were intoxicating. Not just the sex, though, that was incredible. There's something about forbidden attraction that makes every touch electric. But the power dynamic, the secrecy, the way she looked at me like I was giving her something she'd never had before. For 5 months, it was perfect. She got the attention and excitement she was craving. I got the thrill of the conquest and the best sex I'd had in years. Sophie never suspected anything because I was careful to maintain normal routines at home. Bryce never caught on because he was too busy with work to notice the changes in his wife. I thought I had everything under control, every detail managed, every risk calculated, every possible exposure point covered. I was the master of my own game, playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. I had developed a system that seemed foolproof. Tuesday and Thursday house visits became our regular schedule, carefully timed between Bryce's work shifts and Sophie's school hours. I'd tell Sophie I was doing equipment maintenance at the gym or meeting with potential corporate clients. Simple lies that were impossible to verify and required no elaborate explanations. Ashley would schedule fake property showings during our meeting times, always at houses that had been on the market for months. We'd meet there first, then go back to her place if Bryce was guaranteed to be on a job site. The real estate cover was brilliant because it explained why she was driving to different locations, why she was dressed professionally, why she couldn't always be reached immediately. The sex was incredible, but what really got me hooked was the psychology of it all. The way she looked at me like I was solving all her problems. The way she talked about feeling alive for the first time in years. The way she'd text me at night while lying next to her husband, telling me how much she missed me. I started keeping a mental scorecard of all the ways I was superior to Bryce. He worked with his hands, I worked with my mind. He came home tired and dirty. I came home energized and clean. He talked about overtime and union politics. I talked about transformation and potential. He was building their financial future. I was building her emotional future. In my mind, I wasn't destroying their marriage. I was revealing its fundamental weaknesses. If Bryce had been paying attention to his wife, if he'd been meeting her needs, if he'd been the kind of man who could inspire and excite her, none of this would have been possible. I was just filling a vacancy that already existed. The weekend plan was supposed to be our first real getaway. Ashley told Bryce she was doing a real estate conference in Austin, would be gone Friday through Sunday. I told Sophie I was taking a guy's trip to Houston for some continuing education seminars. We booked adjoining rooms at a nice hotel in Austin, planned 3 days of uninterrupted time together. I spent weeks planning every detail, researched restaurants, mapped out activities, even bought new clothes specifically for the trip. This was going to be our trial run for what a real relationship could look like, what our life might be like if we both had the courage to leave our marriages and start over together. Friday morning, I left the house around 10, kissed Sophie goodbye, threw my bag in the truck, told her I'd call when I got to Houston. Probably wouldn't talk much because the guys and I would be busy with seminars and networking events. She believed every word, wished me a good trip, reminded me to drive safely. The drive to Austin felt like a victory lap. 8 months of careful planning, calculated risks, and strategic patience had led to this moment. I was finally going to have Ashley completely to myself, away from all the constraints and complications of our normal situation. Ashley and I met at the hotel around noon. Check-in was smooth, no complications. We had lunch at an upscale restaurant, hit the pool, started what was supposed to be the perfect romantic weekend. For about 6 hours, everything was exactly what I'd planned. She was different when we were completely alone together. More relaxed, more affectionate, more open about her feelings for me and her dissatisfaction with her marriage. She talked about maybe leaving Bryce, about us building something real together, about how this felt like the relationship she'd always wanted but never thought she could have. I was starting to believe my own fantasy, starting to imagine what it would be like to have her full time, to not have to sneak around, to build a life with someone who actually appreciated what I brought to a relationship. For those few hours, I felt like I was living in the future I deserved instead of the compromise I'd settled for. The hotel room was perfect, high-end but not ostentatious, private but not isolated. We ordered room service, opened a bottle of wine, celebrated what felt like the beginning of our real relationship. Everything was going according to plan. I remember thinking how easy it had all been, how simple it was to create the life you wanted if you were smart enough to plan carefully and confident enough to take what you deserved. I felt like I'd beaten the system, outsmarted everyone around me, proven that conventional morality was just for people who lacked the intelligence and courage to get what they really wanted. Ashley was lying next to me around 8 p.m., talking about places she wanted to travel, things she wanted to do that Bryce would never be interested in. I was half listening, mostly just enjoying the feeling of having won something I'd worked so hard for. That's when my phone started ringing. First call was from an unknown number around 9 p.m. I ignored it, figured it was a spam call or wrong number. But then it called again, and again. The third time it rang, Ashley looked annoyed and suggested I just answer it to make it stop. I should have trusted my instincts and let it go to voicemail, should have turned the phone off entirely and dealt with whatever it was on Monday. But I was feeling so confident, so invincible, that I couldn't imagine anything that could threaten what I'd built. Finally picked up on the fourth try. "Is this Logan Martinez?" Woman's voice sounded upset but controlled. "Yeah, who's this?" "My name is Sophie Martinez. I'm married to Logan Martinez." My blood went cold. I looked at Ashley, who had gone from relaxed to alert in an instant. Stepped out onto the hotel balcony, tried to keep my voice calm, even though my heart was suddenly racing. "I think you have the wrong number. My wife is Sophie." "But no, I don't have the wrong number. And yes, I am your wife. The question is, where the hell are you right now? Because you're sure as hell not in Houston." I could hear the controlled fury in her voice. This wasn't Sophie being suspicious or emotional. This was Sophie being methodical and deadly calm, the worst possible version of this conversation. "Sophie, what are you talking about? I'm at the conference just like I told you." "Really? Because I'm looking at the Find My Phone app right now. And according to this, you're in Austin, Texas, at a hotel. Want to explain that?" The world started spinning. I'd completely forgotten about the location sharing we'd set up on our phones last year for safety reasons. Never thought to turn it off, because I never thought she'd check it. In 8 months of careful planning, I'd missed the most basic detail. Ashley was watching me through the sliding glass door, her face growing more concerned by the second. I held up, one finger trying to buy time to figure out how to handle this disaster. "I can explain," I started, but Sophie cut me off. "No, you can't. But I can explain some things to you, like why I spent today going through your truck and found mileage reimbursement forms that don't match any of the places you said you were going, like why your gym schedule shows you've been doing off-site consultations at the same address every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months. My hands were shaking. She'd been investigating. This wasn't a random discovery. This was the result of systematic suspicion and careful detective work. How long had she been watching me? What else had she figured out? "Sophie, listen." "No, you listen. I know about Ashley Thompson. I know about the house visits. I know about the fake property showings. And I know that her husband is sitting in our living room right now, waiting for you to come home and explain why his wife isn't at a conference in Dallas like she told him." The line went dead. I stood on that balcony for 10 minutes, trying to process what had just happened. My wife knew. Ashley's husband knew. They were working together. Everything was blown wide open. The methodical way Sophie had laid out the evidence told me this wasn't a recent discovery. She'd been building a case, collecting proof, probably documenting everything for weeks. The mileage forms, the gym schedule, the location tracking. She'd turned our own systems against us. Ashley came out to check on me, saw my face, and immediately knew something was catastrophically wrong. I had to tell her that both our spouses had figured it out, that they'd been comparing notes, that we were completely screwed. She went into full panic mode, started crying, saying her marriage was over, that Bryce would never forgive her, that she'd lose the house, lose her business, lose everything. Kept asking how they'd found out, what evidence they had, whether we could still cover it up somehow. But I knew it was over. The location tracking alone was impossible to explain away. Add in the mileage forms and the pattern of house visits, and they had enough to prove everything. No amount of lying or explaining was going to fix this. We have to go back, I told her. Both of them are waiting for us. If we don't show up tonight, it's just going to be worse tomorrow. The drive back to San Antonio was the longest 3 hours of my life. Ashley followed me in her car, both of us knowing we were driving toward the complete destruction of our lives. No more secret meetings, no more stolen weekends, no more fantasy of building something together. Just 2 marriages blown apart and 2 families destroyed. I kept thinking about Sophie's voice on the phone. Not hysterical, not even particularly angry. Just coldly factual, like she was reading from a prepared statement. That scared me more than screaming would have. Sophie being emotional, could handle. Sophie being logical was terrifying. We drove separately back to San Antonio that night, both knowing we were walking into a disaster. I got home around 2 a.m., hoping maybe I could still salvage something, that maybe we could still manage the situation somehow. Sophie was waiting in the living room with a stack of papers spread out on the coffee table, mileage forms, gym schedules, printed screenshots from the location tracking app. She'd been busy while I was gone. "Sit down," she said. Not angry, just cold, matter of fact. I sat. "I've been thinking about this for weeks," she said. "Little things that didn't add up. You coming home from the gym, showered and relaxed instead of tired and sweaty. Client consultations that happened during times when the gym was closed. New cologne, new clothes, different energy." She picked up one of the mileage forms. "Then I found these. Addresses that don't match any of your listed business locations. Same address. Over and over, every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 months. So, I looked it up." My mouth was completely dry. "Nice house," she continued. "Expensive neighborhood. Belongs to Bryce and Ashley Thompson." So I called the number from the real estate sign in their yard, pretended I was interested in a showing. Ashley answered. Recognized her voice from when she called the gym, "Looking for you." She leaned back in her chair, studying my face like I was a specimen under a microscope. That's when I called Bryce. Told him his wife had been having my husband over for consultations twice a week for months. Turns out he'd been wondering about some things too. The next 3 hours were the longest of my life. Bryce came over around 3 a.m., and the 4 of us sat in my living room while Sophie and he compared notes. Every lie I'd told, every excuse I'd made, every detail I thought I'd covered, they'd pieced it all together. They had a timeline that was more accurate than my own. Memory. Dates when I'd claimed to be at the gym but was actually at Ashley's house. Hotel bookings that coincided with supposed work trips. Even text message logs they'd somehow managed to cross-reference between my gym schedule and Ashley's real estate appointments. Ashley tried to claim it was just friendship, just professional coaching. Bryce pulled out her phone and started reading text messages that proved otherwise. Months of conversations, plans for meetups, explicit discussions of what we'd done together. I watched her face crumble as he read back her own words describing our relationship. I tried to minimize it, said it had only been physical a few times, that it wasn't serious. Sophie laughed, actually laughed, and showed me the hotel booking confirmations she'd found in my email. 5 different weekends over the past 4 months, all supposedly guys' trips or work conferences. 5 times, Logan, she said. 5 different hotels, 5 different lies, 5. Different weekends where you looked me in the eye and told me you were somewhere else. Bryce was quieter than Sophie, but somehow more intimidating. He sat there methodically going through Ashley's phone, reading messages, checking timestamps, building his case like the skilled tradesman he was. When he finally looked up at me, his expression was completely neutral. "You know what's funny?" he said. "I actually respected you. Ashley talked about her trainer constantly, how much you were helping her, how much stronger and more confident she felt. I was grateful some guy was taking such good care of my wife." The irony was devastating. While I'd been telling myself I was giving Ashley something her husband couldn't, he'd been at home appreciating the positive changes in his wife and crediting me for them. I'd created a man who was grateful for his wife's transformation while secretly destroying his marriage. By dawn, both our marriages were effectively over. Bryce packed a bag and left to stay with his brother. Sophie told me she wanted me out of the house by the weekend, that she'd already talked to a lawyer about divorce proceedings. Ashley and I never spoke again after that night. I heard through mutual gym friends that she and Bryce tried counseling for a few weeks, but he couldn't get past the systematic deception. They separated 2 months later. Divorce was final by Christmas. Sophie and I lasted another month of attempted reconciliation before she decided she was done. Said she could forgive a one-night stand, maybe even a brief affair, but not 8 months of systematic deception. Not the level of planning and manipulation it had taken to pull off what I'd done. It's not just that you cheated, she explained during our last real conversation. It's that you turned lying into an art form. You didn't just betray me, you made me complicit in my own betrayal by making me believe your lies. The gym suffered too. Word got around about what happened, small community, people talk. Lost about a third of my clients over the next 6 months. Turns out people don't want relationship advice from someone who destroyed 2 marriages. Had to sell my stake in the business and start over at a different location. The hardest part wasn't losing Sophie, or even losing the business. It was losing the version of myself I'd believed in. For 8 months, I'd felt like a master strategist, someone who understood human psychology better than anyone around me. I'd felt smarter, more sophisticated, more deserving than the ordinary people who followed conventional rules. Turns out I wasn't a master strategist. I was just a guy who got lucky for a while. All my careful planning couldn't account for basic technology I'd forgotten about. All my psychological manipulation couldn't overcome simple detective work by suspicious spouses. All my confidence couldn't survive one phone call from my wife. The real insight came months later, during a conversation with my new therapist. She asked me what I thought I'd actually been trying to accomplish with Ashley, what I'd really wanted from the affair. I started with the usual justifications. Sophie and I had grown apart. Ashley made me feel appreciated. I deserved to be happy. But the therapist kept pushing, kept asking why I'd needed to tear down 2 marriages to get those things. Finally, I admitted the truth. It wasn't about Ashley or Sophie, or even about sex. It was about power, about proving I could take something that belonged to someone else, about demonstrating that I was superior to Bryce, that I could inspire loyalty in his wife that he couldn't. The affair was never about love or even attraction. It was about conquest, about proving to myself that I was the kind of man who could have whatever he wanted, regardless of the cost to other people. So, yeah, I got caught, not by suspicious spouses gradually figuring things out, but by technology I'd forgotten about and evidence I'd been sloppy enough to leave lying around. All it took was one curious wife checking her husband's location and having the guts to call the other betrayed spouse. They say the house always wins, and in the game of affairs, the house is physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I thought I was the player. Turns out I was just another sucker at the table. The smart money says, don't get involved with married people, but the smarter money says, don't get involved with anyone until you understand why you need to control and conquer instead of simply connect. The deepest truth about infidelity isn't about forbidden desire. It's about the emptiness that drives someone to risk everything just to feel superior to another man.